Having better balance is one of the best protectors against injury, falls, and even death. Building our balance is easy to do, requires little to no equipment, and can almost instantly improve our lives. Whether we're just walking around the house, walking down the street, or running on a rocky trail, a strong sense of balance can increase our body awareness, help us live longer, and greatly reduce the amount of falls that we experience throughout life, but especially as we get older. In this episode, we will cover what balance is, the risks of having poor balance, the key benefits of having better balance, and learn 5 simple exercises that you can do at home to improve your balance. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Fitness Roadmap. I'm your host, Mark Sinderson, and this week we're going to talk about balance. Last week in episode 2, we were talking about the importance of staying moving on a regular basis. And one of the things we want to make sure we can do while we're moving is to have balance. So I want to talk about that here in this episode. And when we think about it, we don't usually think about balance because most of us just take it for granted. We don't even think about it until we do. And having better balance can dramatically improve our lives. Now, what causes us to think about our balance? Usually we don't think about it at all, but what causes us to think about our balance? Well, usually it's after a stumble or a fall. And that's really the absolute worst time to wonder about our balance, after the fall. We should be working to train and improve our balance now so we don't have to think about it after we fall. And that's why having better balance is so important. Now, balance is important for all of us in nearly all of our daily activities. Without good balance, we risk injury and we reduce our athletic performance. So I think it makes sense to do what we can to improve our balance, especially as we get older. So what is balance? Well, it's got a couple definitions, but in the physical activity sense, balance is often defined as a state of physical equilibrium where weight is evenly distributed, allowing one to remain upright without falling. And another, more sports-oriented definition of balance would be the ability to stay upright or stay in control of body movement, and coordination is the ability to move 2 or more body parts under control smoothly and efficiently. Now, in both definitions, the concepts of remaining upright and remaining under control are key. Why is that? Because a lack of being upright and under control usually means we're falling, which is something we want to avoid whether we're walking in our house or running on a track. So there's 2 types of balance, static and dynamic. So static balance is the ability of the body to maintain its center of mass within its base of support. So static means standing still. So static balance is the ability to remain balanced when you're not moving. The other type of balance is dynamic balance, and that's the ability to move outside of the body's base of support while maintaining posture control. In other words, to remain upright and balanced while we're moving. So walking, running, doing gymnastics, all of that is dynamic balance when we're able to maintain control while we're moving. So we've got a couple of definitions of balance. We've got a couple of main types of balance that we want to improve, static and dynamic. What are some of the benefits of incorporating balance training into your daily life? First thing to mention, and it's important, is that some people may think, I don't have any balance. I'm not good at balance. Well, the good news is you can train your balance. It can be learned and trained. So taking balance seriously and working to build it through specific training can have huge benefits. The first benefit of balance training is body awareness. Now, body awareness is the sense of how your limbs are oriented in space. So your body knows where you are in relation to everything else. And that's something that's very important, and balance training improves that. The other thing that balance training does is that it improves your coordination. Now, balance training, as you work to improve your balance, that requires your entire body to work together. Otherwise, you will fall or stumble. So improved coordination during balance training, that will be transferred into coordination in everyday life. Now, another benefit of balance training is improved stability of our joints. It promotes stability in the major joints of the body, such as the ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders. Now, this can prevent a large array of injuries, including sprained ankles, knee strains, hip problems. All that can be prevented or at least reduced to a large extent by having good balance. Balance training also improves your reaction time. If you happen to slip or stumble when performing balance exercises, your body needs to rebalance immediately or you will fall. So it learns how to reorient itself and stay upright rather than falling. Now this, in turn, will improve your reaction time in everyday life. As you're walking down a street and maybe you hit a rock or trip over an edge in the sidewalk, something like that, your reaction time will be faster. It should reduce the chance of you falling. Just in general, training your balance and getting better balance is going to improve your long-term health. So incorporating balance training into your exercise routine, make it a part of your regular weekly exercise routine, helps maintain or improve your balance. That's pretty obvious. But it's also improves your chance of surviving or not falling in the first place. And what happens when people fall, especially as they get older? They'll fracture something. They'll fracture a hip, they'll fracture a leg, and reducing the amount of fractures that we have just in life in general, but especially as we get older, that's going to improve our long-term health outcomes dramatically. I've referenced a few times just in this little bit that we've been talking about how balance reduces falls. And basically it comes down to a lack of balance results in an increased chance of a fall. And I'm mentioning this so much because falls are one of the leading causes of injury and death among adults, especially older adults. Some interesting facts about falls here. Now, as children or young adults, when they fall, it's usually not a serious thing. But as we get older, falls become very serious. According to a 2024 report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 out of every 4 adults age 65 and older falls each year. That's over 14 million falls. And 37% of these falls lead to moderate or serious injuries, including fractures and head injuries that can be life-altering. Falls are the leading cause of accidental death in adults 65 and older. That's a statistic that just blew me away. I couldn't imagine that falls are the leading cause of accidental death, but they are. The age-adjusted fall death rate is going up. In other words, the amount of deaths resulting from falls on an age-adjusted basis is going up. From 2012 to 2021, it is increased by 55%. So a pretty dramatic increase in deaths resulting from falls, especially for older adults. In May of 2024, the CDC published an article called Facts About Falls, and it has some very sobering details about the physical and financial impacts of falls. First is that 1 out of 10 falls results in an injury that causes the older adult to restrict their activities for a day or more or seek attention from the healthcare system. Each year, there are about 3 million emergency department visits due to older people falling. I can relate to that personally. My mother, over the last few years of her life, had fallen a couple of times, and each time did require a visit to the hospital and the emergency room. Now, each year there are about 1 million fall-related hospitalizations among older adults. So out of the 17 million number or 14 million number that I had in the previous statistic, 1 million of them are going into hospital for some type of result of that fall. 1 million of those among older adults. In 2019, 83% of hip fracture deaths and 88% of emergency department visits and hospitalizations for hip fractures were caused by falls. It's a huge percentage. So basically what that's saying is over 80%, almost 90% of hip fractures are the result of falls. Now each year, nearly 319,000 older adults are hospitalized for hip fractures, and falls are the most common cause of traumatic brain injuries. So many people who fall, and this is kind of a follow-on effect, many people who fall, even if they're not injured, become afraid of falling. And this fear is going to cause a person oftentimes to cut down on their everyday activities. And when a person is less active, they become weaker and starts a vicious cycle. Becoming weaker increases the chance of falling. Falling reduces the activity, and on and on and on. So there's a psychological or lifestyle impact of falling. Even if people aren't injured, they become hesitant to go out and be active because they're afraid of falling. Now, falls do happen among younger people. About 1 in 10 younger and middle-aged people fall every year, but the risk for falling and suffering a serious injury or death increases with age. There's still people that get injured or die from a fall when they're younger, but the percentage is much, much higher for those adults that are older. All these sobering facts, I hope they convince you, as they have convinced me, that all of us should be working to improve our balance, no matter how old we are or what activities we pursue, whether we're looking to compete in sport or just to compete in everyday life. So, if we want to improve our balance, what do we need to be focusing on? We want to train our bodies to be more aware of where it is in space at all times. Now, this is called proprioception, and proprioception is defined as the sense of self-movement, force, and body position. Proprioception is achieved by proprioceptors, which are a type of sensory receptor located within muscles, tendons, and joints. So a strong sense of proprioception, it's going to help us stay upright. So training our balance is ultimately a way of increasing our proprioception. I've been talking about how important it is to train our balance. Does it really work? Does balance training make an impact? What are the effects of balance training on real-world people, and is it something that we should be doing? To answer that question, there was a meta-analysis, which is essentially a review of research studies, a meta-analysis that was published in 2015 titled Effects of Balance Training on Balance Performance in Healthy Older Adults, a systematic review and meta-analysis. And once again, the link to this meta-analysis and all the other sources I'm citing can be seen at thefitnessroadmap.com/003. So anyway, in this analysis performed in 2015, they found that balance training, quote, is an effective means to improve the proxies of static and dynamic, steady state, proactive, and reactive balance, as well as performance in balance tests in healthy older adults. Furthermore, we were able to establish effective balance training modalities to improve balance performance in healthy older adults. Okay, to try to translate that a little bit, basically saying that balance training is an effective means to improve static and dynamic balance and reactive balance. In other words, catching yourself if you're stumbling. It's an effective means to improve static, dynamic, and reactive balance, as well as just performance in balance tests in healthy older adults. So in other words, balance training improved our ability to balance. Furthermore, they said they were able to establish effective modalities, in other words, effective training programs to improve balance in healthy older adults. So it seems like balance training yields results in the real world. Talked about how important balance is. It seems like the evidence indicates that balance training improves our sense of balance, which can greatly reduce the chance of falling, injury, and death as we get older. How do we start? How do we start building our balance, getting better balance ourselves without having to go through an expensive gym or protocol or anything like that? What I've done is come up with 5 basic balance building exercises that you can start out with. Now, obviously, there's hundreds of different ways of building your balance, but I've done the research here and done these in my own life over the last year or two to improve my own balance. And these are 5 basic exercises that you can start off with to begin giving yourself better balance. Now, the first one is just a basic single leg balance exercise. So this is a very basic drill, and I think it's the perfect place to start to see where you are balance-wise. Now, you'll probably be surprised by how challenging it can be. I started off with this, and I failed pretty miserably at first, but I've improved dramatically over time. So the way you do this is stand on stable ground, so floor, hallway, and I would recommend, if you are at all concerned about your current balance ability, use some sort of prop to make sure that you can catch yourself if you do stumble or lose your balance. So a lot of times people will stand in a doorway, maybe in a narrow hallway so they can catch themselves, or have a friend kind of support you and be there to help you if you do need to catch your balance very quickly. So the single leg balance drill is a great place to start. So stand on stable ground, then lift up one foot or the other. You don't have to lift it very high off the ground, just lift it off of the ground. So let's say, for example, you decide that you're going to lift up your left foot. So you're going to stand on one foot. So you will lift your left foot a few inches off the ground. That's all you need to do. And then just stand on the other foot for as long as you can. If you can do for 30 seconds, you're on your way. But maybe the first time you might only be able to do it for a second or two. Because really the first time you try this, you're going to be surprised in most cases. But if you can stand there on one leg for 30 seconds and build yourself up to being able to stand on one leg for 30 seconds, try the other leg. And what you will probably find is, if you're like me, and I think most people do have a dominant side of their body. For me, it was very obvious. I'm left-handed, and so for me, my left side of the body seems to be better. So when I first tried this single leg balance drill, I was able to stand on my left foot for longer than my right foot. So you will find you probably have one side or the other that is better able to balance. But the first time you try this, like I said, stand in a narrow hallway or have a friend help you just in case you do stumble. But once you get to the point where you can stand on just one leg for 30 seconds, if you want to increase the challenge by a lot, try closing your eyes. That will make it incredibly more difficult, at least it did for me, and that's because our eyes are such an important sense. They help us tell our body where we are in space, and if we close our eyes, we're removing that important input. But try closing your eyes once you can comfortably stand on one foot for 30 seconds. That's going to kick it up another notch. Okay, so once you're able to stand on a single leg with just the other foot barely off of the ground, the next version of this balance drill is to do what's called the stork stand. So basically the same setup as a single leg balance. Now instead of just lifting your leg off the ground, you will lift your leg and bring the knee up towards your chest while keeping an upright stance. So you will stand on, say, your right leg, lift your left leg off the ground, and instead of just barely keeping your foot off of the ground, lift your knee up towards your body. Try to do it without using your hands. Just stand on the one leg, lift the other leg up towards your body by flexing your knee. Keep your hips level. Don't tilt to one side or the other. And then go through that same progression. Start with whatever you can. Maybe it's a couple of seconds. And then if you can get to that 15 to 30 seconds, then you know that you're progressing. So as you do it, try to stand for 15 to 30 seconds. If you have to put your foot down to catch yourself, do that and then go back up into that stork stand position. Do that for a total of maybe 30 to 45 seconds, then switch sides. Now, once again, closing your eyes will increase the difficulty. The other thing that will increase the difficulty is to stand on a slightly unstable surface. So maybe putting a towel or something underneath your foot that's slightly squishy. That will increase the difficulty. The other thing that will increase the difficulty on all of these is raising your arms and moving them around, maybe moving them in circles. That, once again, that's just going to make the challenge a little higher for all of these exercises. Moving around while you're balancing on one leg. The third exercise or balance training drill to try is leg swings. Now, this is a very good exercise for not only improving just your static balance, but now we're starting to increase and move towards that dynamic balance. So having the ability to balance while your body is moving. So pretty much the same setup as the other two. Stand tall in a doorway or hallway, once again, so you can catch yourself. You probably will want to start off with one hand against the frame of the door or the wall for balance. Stand on one leg, lift the other leg up, and then just swing. So if you're standing on your right leg, lift the left leg up, just swing the leg forward and backward, maybe 20 to 30 degrees forward and back. Start off with just a little bit of swinging forward and back, slow and easy. And once you get the hang of this, step away from the door frame or take your arm away from the wall. Try to do it without holding on for anything for balance. Now, this is good warm-up exercise, especially if you're going to be going out and maybe going for a walk or a run, because it's going to help engage your leg muscles, your glute muscles, your hips as you swing those legs. And it will also just fire up all those muscles and get them ready to work, as well as building your balance. Do that once again on both legs, left leg and right leg, swinging the opposite leg, starting off with just a small swing. If you can get to the point where you can swing it maybe up to 45 degrees forward and backward, that will be a very good challenge. And like I said, that's a great warm-up. I do that a lot of times before I'll go out for a walk or a run, just a way to kind of get the muscles activated and firing before I get out and start moving. Next one is a single leg reach. Now this, once again, is great for building balance, but it also strengthens your core, your glutes, and your hamstrings because of the movement that we're going to be doing here. Stand on the floor, a nice open area. Put something in front of you, kind of something that you can touch. Maybe it's a cone, tennis ball, or something, a box in front of you a couple of feet. Let's say you're going to balance on your right leg. Balance on your right leg, lift your left leg up, but you're going to bend from your hips. So in other words, hinge your hips backwards as you reach towards the cone. So you'll be standing on your right leg, kind of push your butt back and tilt over. So you hinge your hips, which will cause the top of your body to go towards the ground, and then reach towards the cone that you placed in front of you, or the box that you placed in front of you. Balance on your right leg, lift your left leg behind you, lean forward, and reach your right hand to that prop. So in other words, you're going to hinge at the hips. That will get your body moving, your upper body moving towards that box or object in front of you. Then that will allow you to lift up your left leg, move it behind you, and then continue down and touch the box or tennis ball or whatever it is with your right hand. return to an upright stance, staying on that right leg, and do that maybe 5 to 8 times on each leg. If you can build that to maybe reps of 10 to 15, do that once, get to the point where you're doing a couple of sets a day on each leg. That's going to be a great way to obviously build your balance, but also strengthen your glutes, your hamstrings, and everything else. So once again, take your time with this. Have a friend help you with all of these exercises, especially as you're getting started. But you will find, probably, as I did, that if you do this, you don't have to do this every day, but if you dedicate maybe 10 to 15 minutes a few times a week towards building your balance, you will find pretty quickly that your balance will increase. So, very good way to build your balance. The last exercise I'm going to recommend here for building your balance is what's called a hip abduction. So you're going to put a light resistance band around your ankles, a real light, just something that is very, very low resistance. You can find resistance bands or like little latex bands. You can find them on Amazon. Put a resistance band around your ankles, balance on your right leg, lift your left leg to the side, keeping your toes and knees on your left leg pointed forward, and then just slowly move your leg to the side. So you're going to use the muscles in your hip to move your leg out to the left from your right leg. With add a little bit of tension from that band on your ankles, that will provide a little extra resistance, which will force your body to brace against that and activate those muscles really in both legs to help maintain your balance. And once again, build up, so maybe where you can do 5, 10, or 15 repetitions on each side, then switch legs and do the other leg. And once again, you will find on all of these exercises, most likely that one leg will be better than another. One leg will have better balance or better strength or better mobility. So just pay attention to that, and you will probably find that one leg or the other is better at all of these exercises. Once you're able to do all these exercises that I mentioned fairly easily, if you want to add variety and make them even a little more challenging, like I said, the easiest way to do that is to close your eyes. That's going to increase the difficulty quite a bit. The next thing you might want to do is add some wobbly kind of surface to your foot, so you're not standing on a perfectly flat and stable surface. So you could do something like I said, bunch up a towel, put it underneath your foot, gives a little bit of instability, left, right, forward, and backward. There are also balance training devices like balance boards, balance balls, Bosu balls, all those types of things. I would call them as wobbly surfaces that you can stand on to then train your balance on an unstable surface. That's something to work towards and strive for, but at the beginning, and this might take you a few months, maybe longer, depending on where you're starting from. Don't worry about adding a wobbly surface until you can confidently do all of the other exercises that I've talked about. So you can do the single leg stand, the stork stand, the single leg reach, the hip abduction. If you can do all those comfortably standing on a stable surface, then introduce the difficulty of maybe closing your eyes or adding some sort of wobbly surface below your feet. I think if you start off and dedicate a little bit of time, a few days a week, to improving your balance and working on your balance, you will see dramatic results. I know I have in the last couple of years, once I've taken a little more serious look at building my balance and improving my balance. There you go. Some talk about the importance of balance and how good balance can improve the quality of our lives, greatly reducing the chances of a debilitating fall. Now, if you're not doing any balance training now, maybe this will help you to make some changes to your routine and introduce some balance training. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate anything you could do to get the word out about this podcast and what we are doing here at the Fitness Roadmap. You can go to thefitnessroadmap.com/003 to read show notes. I also will have a link there at the top of the site for signing up for the weekly newsletter. And please share this episode with somebody you know that you think could benefit from the information that we're providing here. Chances are all of us know somebody that could probably benefit by improving their balance. So be great if you could forward this episode to them, and maybe they will get something out of it just like you did. Also, do a follow and subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Okay, on to poll of the week. This is something I introduced in the previous episode. I will talk about the results of last week's poll here in the next week or so, but I want to give you an opportunity to provide some input as it relates to this episode. And this week's poll question is, do you know somebody who has been injured as the result of a fall? I'm very interested to find out how many of us can personally relate to somebody that's been injured as a result of a fall. So you can go to thefitnessroadmap.com/003. At the bottom of the post, you will see the poll of the week. Go ahead and record your answer, and we will review and discuss the results of that in an upcoming episode. That is it for this week. I hope you found it helpful, and maybe we'll bring some balance to your training. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week. And until then, enjoy the journey and be well.